A great man once said, fuck it, we'll do it live. Evil Dojo will be starting soon. Something like this. Yeah, I think this works. Game's coming along. Got some shit to cook up today. I'm going to try and get into a really good workflow. We have 5 days, 17 hours, 36 minutes left. I'm going to save getting the web build rolling for like another day or two. Because we've got some more features that I would like to develop today. In particular, one of the first things I want to get rolling is not only damage, like currently all the orcs only take one hit to kill, right? So what I'd like to do is get some orcs that have more than 1 HP that require multiple hits, which will incentivize getting an attack boost upgrade so that your individual sword strikes do more damage per durability, so that we can actually increment or like introduce scaling enemy difficulty or like health. In addition to that, I got backwards facing sword to work, and I'm thinking about doing up and down sword as well. So there will be some more than just like one side of the screen will have enemies coming at you. Let's see what else. Various other little tweaks. So we're going to get enemies spawning from the left-hand side of the screen. And potentially from above, definitely from above and below as well. So it's going to be really interesting listing out all of the features once I kind of like put a plug in it and decide that this shit's cooked up, it's done. And even then, it probably won't be done once the game jam's over. You know, there will be plans to expand and grow. I think that the camera position looks out better over here, but At the end of the day, I'm going to end up probably moving back to the couch. Oops. Is that right, Nano? Let's see. Is anyone in the chat? Nah, y'all ain't here yet. Stream not found. What? Nah, this ain't the right chat. There we go. This is the right chat. What's up, one viewer? On Twitch. How you doing? You ready for some game dev? I'm ready for some game dev. Y'all better post up. I want this one to be a long one. All right. Let me do my thing. May or may not have a dog waking up here in a few minutes. But before and she might actually wake up when I step out on the patio. Very funny story happened yesterday. Just after I clicked go live, I literally stepped out onto that patio and I don't know if it's because the latch is rather loose. And actually, now that I think about it, I'm going to unlock the other door because what happened was, I'm not sure if it was the latch that is loose or if my cat happened to slap the latch because he's able to get up on my couch and reach that door latch. And I'm not sure because he wants to go outside, right? I'm not sure what happened, whether it was the latch that jiggled shut when I shut the door, or if my cat accidentally, or God forbid on purpose, slapped this latch and caused it to shut and lock. But I ended up locked out of my house apartment. I ended up locked out of my apartment just after going live on stream yesterday. So the last live stream had like 30 minutes of just the title screen playing. And it's kind of funny going back on it, but at the time, man, it was real stressful because I knew that I could go to the front office to get some help. They have spare keys and stuff like that. But walking from here to there, so first of all, I'm very lucky that I was able to even escape because my patio and, of course, my apartment is on the first floor. And I fucking had to jump over my patio gate, fence, whatever you call that shit, to get to the outside. And then I had to walk through the middle of Texas summer heat. And on top of that, burning hot asphalt. And I burned my feet. It was very hot. My feet were in pain for a little bit. So I basically hauled ass up to the front. They got me a spare key. I came back to my apartment, and the key didn't work. So I had to go back to the front office, get them again. Someone was sent by, and they actually got the door unlocked. So everything ended up working out. But damn, that was a workout. By the time I got on stream, I was like hot and sweaty and shit. And all that energy that I had, well, burned it off and it went somewhere. So that was fun. It's 2:35 p.m. now, Central Time. We're going to be doing some game development in just a few minutes. As my dog needs, bathroom breaks and stuff, I'm going to take her out. As my own bio needs come up into the equation, we'll be taking breaks for those. But the general gist of today is get shit done and stay in motion, because fear is the mind killer. I forget the whole litany of fear, but it was a really fun, super ancient Dune thing. I need to read the book as well as go through the movies, honestly. Something about the most recent first movie just didn't hit with me for some reason, but I definitely need to run through that shit again. It's probably because when I was growing up, there was this an amazing incarnation of Dune through a TV series that I thought at the time was like really fucking great. Of course, there was a much older Dune movie before that TV series that came out, but and even then, I should probably go back and like rewatch that one too, because the thing that stuck out to me about the first Dune movie was the big old fat dude who was flying around. He looked pretty intense. But the way that they did the desert planet stuff in the TV series just really hit. Like I really like desert planet settings in sci-fi. Like I really like Tatooine in Star Wars. I really like the Jawa Raiders. I thought the Sand People were really fucking cool. That was my shit as a kid growing up. I was like, it was like in Star Wars terms, it's like the coolest parts of Star Wars for me as a kid were like the Sand Raiders and Yoda. Like Dagobah and Tatooine, easily coolest planets. No shot. I want to do some sci-fi stuff in the future, honestly. But you have to work with what you know, and sci-fi's hard. And especially, I feel like if someone's going to start doing sci-fi stuff, they need to really try to avoid formula, right? Like, there's certain archetypical components of different sci-fi genres that kind of end up proliferating throughout like each one. But the big thing is that, for me anyway, the way I see sci-fi is that it's supposed to be like an iteration from the present in order to like imagine a future, period. Like just be able to, given the components of now, right, build on top of that and kind of observe where things are going and what one possible future might be from a particular starting point. And I think really that's how like new, interesting, immersive, paradigm shifting ideas come into existence through this process. All right, I'm done rambling. My dog just woke up. She gotta go pee pee. So, perfect time for us to do that. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do my other thing, and then we're gonna get started. All right, let's fucking go. So, check it out. So there you go. So there's a lot to do, but it already is starting to feel like a pretty good game, right? I can only imagine playing it with a controller because it's going to be fucking fire. So, how do we make it more fire now, right? How do we take what we have and improve upon it in a way where it becomes measurably better, right? So there's a lot of different directions to go. I've already listed out several of the things that I want to do. Another thing that I didn't say earlier is that I want to add an actual HUD today because we have the assets for that now and it would be very easy and straightforward. Do we have all the assets for it? Kind of. Um, at the very least, we can get like an HP thingy up on the screen. Although, technically speaking, the whole purpose of the red shader that I apply to the hero texture that takes in its HP and figures out, well, thank you. I really appreciate that. Um, it's always very deceiving when people say something looks good when you didn't create the art for it. So I have to take it with a grain of salt because it's not my graphics, right? But I am the one putting the graphics on the screen, moving them around, making them interact with each other, all that good stuff. I am the programmer. So if you're saying the program looks good, then thank you even more because I'm having fun making it. Um, Certainly, I don't know how judging and stuff in the competition is going to go, but please, uh, as I discover how ranking and stuff works and all that good stuff, you know, I'm going to ask y'all to vote for me if you're able to. I don't know how that's going to roll, but it's going to be interesting. Apparently, there's prizes, but really the prize for me is creating a second game before I've completed my first. This was the first thing that looks like a cool game. Nice. Yeah, like it always doesn't look like much in the beginning, right? Like in the very beginning of any new project, unless you're, you know, coming in with like pre-built stuff. You know, I straight up started from scratch here, or at least where scratch equals use of raylib. But the whole point being that it doesn't seem like much at first, but you can iterate upon an idea in a way where you can measurably grow it into something new. And in fact, I'm probably going to reapply this process on game 3 so that like here, like let me really show you what I'm talking about because when I say clean coding, when I say like I've made a very strong effort to keep the code very clean and still, you know, make use of a lot of the more important tools like the C++ STL. What I'm talking about specifically is the syntax used in order to interact with the STL. So to compare what I'm talking about, let's see. Let's take a look at the two at two files from my big project, the one that I really want to work on, Project RPG. So in the game state, I began, so I converted the whole project over to C++. This took a long time, but it was worth it because now I have access to the STL. Now, one of the linter yellings that like my shit would give me, my editor in particular, was that inside of header files, if you're declaring like a STL data structure to not do the like using namespace shit over here, that should be like really reserved for like the source file. So over here we have the std : shit that I fucking hate. I don't know why this bothers me so much. There's a lot of Rust code that has like a lot of : shit like littered throughout it as well. As a language designer and as someone who's like really interested in like opening up programming to larger and larger numbers of people and understanding like the psychology behind why people are so averse to things coming in, is that from a syntax perspective, a lot of people are very terrified. I've been tutoring for a long time online, and the number one problem that most students face, especially like introductory computer science students, is that more people understand concepts better than syntax out the box. Like, people aren't really great at taking a look at a single line of code and figuring out what the fuck it even does. My dog's talking to me. Hold on. Grace, I'm talking about why people are so terrified of C++ sometimes. So what's going on in this line, right? Like for each one of these maps that I'm declaring. So one of the problems I ran into is that like you can't just declare a map or an order map or a vector inside of a struct. You actually have to declare a pointer to it. The reason being is at this point it's like a dynamically allocated data structure. And actually, realistically, when I go back to working on Project RPG, I'm going to probably end up turning these into shared pointers. If I were really hardcore, I would be using unique pointer everywhere. But the thing about unique pointer is that you actually have to like manage the movement of the pointer when you want to like use it in other locations, which gets really fucking cumbersome. I've kind of done something really stupid where like I've used shared pointer everywhere, and it's generally working. Like the performance of the game's not really impacted or anything like that, but I'm sure that I'm doing something fundamental in a way where it could be more proper and end up achieving potentially like better organization and performance over time. So how does this differ with what I'm doing over here? Well, in this one file, we just have unordered maps, right? No pointer, no std : bullshit, and they're all on the stack. And because they're all on the stack, I don't have to use pointer syntax when I'm actually interacting with them. So as an example of this, we can just do dot pushback whenever we have such an item like in the vector. So like for all the global stuff, all we have to do, like empty them out, for instance, when we're cleaning up the game data on like game over, is we just call dot clear on each one of those data structures, and we're good to go. And this makes it like so much easier, because like if you're coming back into this from like Python land or from JavaScript land, and you're thinking in terms of like dictionaries, unordered map is basically a dictionary. So is map. Like they're slightly different in how like you iterate over items, but um, they're pretty good. There's a lot about the code that needs better organization. Every so often, I have things in places where they probably shouldn't go, and that's okay. Because the important part is getting something working, because you can always go back to it and make it better later. I have not been missing fucking shit, Dulce. Get that Lisp shit out of my fucking chat. You gotta show me your goddamn setup already. Jesus Christ. Fuck Lisp. Fuck scheme. Fuck parentheses. Fuck parenthetical syntax. Hate that shit. The only time you should have parentheses is when parameters are going into it and it's being used to call a function. C style. What's up, Dulce? How you doing, man? I hate to be a scheme hater, but you know what? Like, fuck. I remember writing that scheme interpreter in college still for our final project in programming languages, and it was a nightmare. However, I did figure out a trick to like making writing a Lisp or a scheme less painful. And you got to keep in mind, like when I was in college, I wasn't using Vim at all, even though the guy who signed my diploma was like, "You should be using Vim." And I was like, "No, it's fucking right wing bullshit." You know, like how did I think about like how I thought about Vim in college? Because the teacher was obviously trying to confer to people that the whole point of Vim was that you keep your hands on home row, right? And that's important because when you're trying to move at high speed, you want to reduce as much physical movement as you possibly can. It's kind of like streamlining a car or an airplane. You know, they're designed the way that they are because they are intending to like reduce like air friction when you're like moving, right? Because like let's say you're trying to like pull like a giant wall or something like down traffic. Well, the wind from the traffic is going to be like, exerting force on the front side of that wall, right? So like this is an analogy for like Vim and like not moving or like keeping your hands on home row. So like the more that you like shave off edges of that side, the wind can then go to the sides in a more even fashion and over time reduce the effective drag or the force that's being exerted on that front. So this is an important thing for like streamlining, right? So Vim has it's like JKL semicolon or HJKL, I forget which. In other words, the fingers that your right hand would sit on top of if you were like typing, right? And I unfortunately can't do that due to the nature of my disability. Um, so this is my right hand. This is what it looks like when it's in typing position if I were to type like a normal human being, but I don't. And I can't type like this because, like, think in terms of like people before they learn proper typing, right? So a lot of people do this thing called hunt and peck, and I did for a certainly long amount of time when I was a teenager, where you have your index finger and your other index finger. In my case, my right hand's thumb acts as my index finger. So I typed like this for a long time. You know, if I kind of clench my fist and I am able to rotate, my forearm in an appropriate fashion, don't say anything about my cut nails. I need to cut them, I'm aware. But every time I cut my nails, it fucks with my typing. So I need to figure some shit out there. But index finger and thumb, right? So I type like that, and you get to college, you're rocking I think I was using, no, in college it was Pico, and then it turned to Nano, right? Because Nano is actually a fork iteration on Pico. So anyone who knows the Nano text editor, like that's what I basically got through school in. Um, yeah, a lot of people will have like one hand on the mouse and one hand on the keyboard, and they'll like one hand keyboard a lot of shit. I think that's impressive. Um, when I use the mouse, it's like very like focused. Like, and the reason being because in order for me to use the mouse, I have to take my whole ass hand, off the keyboard entirely. And so I usually keep the mouse pretty close to the left hand side of the keyboard. So to like reduce the amount of movement back and forth between the mouse and the keyboard, this is one reason I actually hate the fucking mouse. Um, I actually have key bindings that allow me to turn my numpad into a mouse pad so that I can actually keep my hands closer to the keyboard. Um, that said, though, it's kind of a violation of the home row principle, but because of my particular shoulder span and the way my back and my hand sit and everything, it's really comfortable for me to have left hand home row, right hand on the enter key on the numpad. Now that might seem weird, but another comfortable position is also on the arrow keys. And it's only when I'm actively typing, when I'm actively entering input, that my right hand makes it to the home row. So I'm working with that against me. And teacher was like, you gotta use Vim because key bindings. And I'm like, nah, dude, right handed, I'm left. But one thing he didn't teach me about that I learned later through a developer named Destroy All Software was that you can customize your Vim RC. And that includes the layout of the key bindings. And I had a thought in 2011 when I began working as an iOS developer, and I wanted to get away from Xcode. And I saw this dude screencast, and I thought, I wonder, could I make a left-handed key binding so that I could left-hand Vim? And sure enough, you can. And I did. And I've been doing it that way for the last 14 years. I have a couple split keyboards, a non-blue. I actually have two Kinesis, the Kinesis Freestyle 2 and the Kinesis Pro. And as cool as they are, they don't really solve my problem. Here, my dog wants to say hi. Hey. As I've mentioned before, poor girl is blind and she can't find the water. So, I bring it to her. That's right. I serve my dog water. Like I said, she's old. She's like 15. Um, I feel still really lucky that she's still around with us. She's a very good girl. She's never caused any problems. She just takes a bit of work, and that's one of the reasons that I want to make this my day job, is that it would give me the chance to be with her for as long as possible. Because anything that would get in between my ability to take care of her needs is not something that I'm interested in doing. You know what I mean? Oh, she not. It's a girl dog. Um, you found your cat in a tree. That's fucking awesome. We're gonna use snacks in a little bit, okay? You know that? We'll use snacks. Can you keep talking to people on the internet? You know that? Grace says it's okay if I keep talking with y'all, so I'm gonna sit next to her for a minute. But I will bring the I'll bring the mic over with me. Wow, Microsoft Silverlight. That's a throwback. Shout out in the chat if you actually know what Silverlight is or was, because damn, I haven't heard that name in a long time. Sometimes I feel like I kind of missed out on this whole generation of programming, where people were like making shit in like ActiveX and Flash and shit, and it's a really interesting paradigm shift where like I actually got my start as a web developer like professionally, where people were actually paying me, like right at the beginning of 2011, like end of 2010, and people were really obsessing about having like websites that look good on tablets. And the site, or the company I was working with, was really obsessed with like video and a lot of stuff like that. They were obsessed with making really flashy, fancy, looking websites, and which is good, and they gave the business owners everything that they want. And sometimes business owners are confused and don't necessarily know what they want and think that they know what they want, and then in the process of articulating their wants and needs, miscommunicate and create work, which is how I got my start. Um, oh, a non-blue. Okay, so we can talk about that, because I can talk about my AI programming setup, um, because the tool landscape is evolving very rapidly, and actually, there's a there's a post on Well, so Dulce, the good news about the way that I'm coding this game is that like there's virtually any calls to new. I don't think there's any calls to new. In fact, I don't think I'm even mallocing anything. I think everything I'm doing is entirely on the stack. And actually, back to my point about what I was talking about earlier, from a syntax perspective, by doing everything on the stack, I get to get away with really nice syntax. So like whenever we're actually setting names or setting like any of the component variables in the maps that I'm using, we can actually access them using syntax very similar to like array access syntax or dictionary access syntax in both JavaScript and Python. Like this is the same shit. The most complicated line for working with the STL data structures is probably the erase lines that I use, because you have to use an iterator and then add an index to it in order to actually correctly erase the correct item in a particular thing. So this is kind of like a temporary vector that I'm using, but like the more permanent ones that sit at the very top in the global space, we delete things like this. So we can actually, given a particular key that we're looking for, we can just call find on our component table to see if we even have it to begin with, and then if it's there, we erase it. So component table's a map of entity ID to longs, and the long is basically just a set of bits that indicate which component something has. So when we go to actually set a component, we literally just do a bit shift and then OR that with the current value for that ID. And then that effectively sets the, like you can think of the long like a bit field, where each bit represents a different component. And if it's 0, it doesn't have that, and if it's 1, it does. And for instance, if we're going to like get the name of an entity, and now all entities should have names, but I set it up like this so that like the first component I ever create, usually in a new system, is like the name of the entity. So entities have IDs, they have names, and if it doesn't have the component, then we return no name. Then we call find on the names, and then if IT is not equal to the end of the names, then we return the second value. This is the only time that we see pointer syntax. The only time. And even then, like, we don't have to use asterisks. Like, we're actually, like, auto is really kind of nice, like, in a lot of ways, because it, for one, it's far easier to type than some of the longer types that end up coming up. But anyway, the point being, yeah, like this is actually all of this, because I'm doing it all on the stack. It's pretty much garbage collected. Even unloading the textures is a formality. I don't even think I have to manually do this. Same thing with the unloading of the sound files and the stopping of the music stream. This is a formality. I don't even think I have to do this. The game will probably still work, it will probably still run, and it probably won't crash. Yeah, Anon Blue, I'm in a similar position. Um, Life has not been very nice, or rather, as much as I've tried to stand up to life in the past, the last 20 years have been kind of rough. You know, the come up into age 20 was pretty fine, but a lot of shit happened to me from about age 22 until now. And I mean, a lot of shit. I've been through the ringer. I've only worked 2 years in a corporate environment. Most of my experience from age 23 until now has been entirely freelance. Mostly. I've had a little bit of high paying work for a tech related company, but I only have 2 years in corporate. And most of my time during the last, how old am I? Fuck. Most of my time in the last 16 years, I've been freelancing remotely, tutoring people online. I had a brief stint where I delivered pizza, but the most important thing about the changing times. So, first of all, Anon Blue, we're going to talk about two things. We're going to talk about the the changing software development landscape as a result of the advent of AI and LLM tooling. But before that, like, now I'm gonna sound retarded. Don't cancel me for saying that, but I'm gonna sound retarded when I talk about why it's so difficult for people to get programming jobs now. And it's not necessarily anyone's fault other than lawmakers, because as far as I understand it, the tax regulations for software developers changed due to a law in 2016. I think it was actually during the first Trump administration. I could be wrong. Someone please correct me. But there was a change to the tax code that now treats software developers as a commodity rather than an employee. And because of this change, the way that companies are taxed by how many software developers they have on staff causes them to pay exponentially more taxes over time. I forget the exact like description of the ruling, but it was something to the effect of like if you hire a developer for like $100,000 a year or something like that, then the way that the company is taxed isn't based off of the fact that you have an employee that is being paid $100,000 a year. The way that they're being taxed is as if you've acquired an asset that is worth $100,000 a year. And this asset depreciates in value over time. So, as a result of this, companies are expected or required to pay exponentially more in taxes than they did previously. And because of this added expense to businesses, they are now having, they have laid off a lot of software developers. And even though there's a lot of job postings out there, companies may be unable to actually go through hiring as many as they'd like, or as a result of this, they're being a lot more selective about who they're hiring, which is why I've felt that, and even before I learned all of this, like I had this realization in like 2016 that, you know, for all of the stuff that a company will ask you to do for them, and you know, you know, for all the work that I've done for the corporate companies I was just talking about, for all of that work, I don't get to tell anyone that I did it because I had to sign a fucking NDA. I can only really talk about the nature of my work. I can't talk about exactly what I did. I can't put my name on any of the things that I've done publicly without like some form of like legal retribution. And I thought that kind of sucks. You know, it's like you're getting paid all this money, but like you don't get to say anything about like what you did. You don't get to like tell people, you know that app, I worked on that app, or you know this, I did that. So, you know, with all the stuff that like when you do stuff on company time that companies own in terms of your work, I thought I should be able to oh wow, that's Anon, that's really interesting. Um, I'd like for you to reach out to me on X and talk to me more about this in a private chat if you're interested. Um, that's really interesting. Um, because yeah, like from my perspective, the kinds of things that I'm doing over here, like the kinds of projects that I'm trying to spin up, are all trying to take advantage of the fact that I've written more code since, first of all, I've written more code like this year than I have in probably all of the years of my life combined. And by write code, I'm not going to say I wrote it myself. I'm going to say I used LLM tools to help me. But at a certain point, when you're building something, who's checking to see who wrote it? Who's checking to see, like, was this code created with an LLM? Or is this all human, handcrafted, hand typed code? Does that shit matter? I don't think it matters. I don't think it matters if you use LL tooling or not, so long as you're able to actually create the thing, so long as you're able to actually do proper software engineering, so long as you're actually able to verify the thing that you create. That's crazy to say that you work in Lisp and you've never had a programming job. Which means that like whatever industry you do work in is like, I want to say tangent, language tangent. Maybe you're in liberal arts or something like that. Yeah, like there's a really big push for like Rust in real big applications. There's a really big push for Go. Um, as much as I prefer Go to Rust syntactically, I think unfortunately Rust is going to end up winning out in terms of a industry de facto C like language that allows people to engineer very specific, um, very intricate, and probably in some cases very safe code. Uh, that said, um, it's the kind of headbanging experience where I would really have to like sit down and come back to, and I wish there was a way to make Rust less gross. Let's just say that. Oh, right on. Appreciate that. All right, so let's actually do some real game dev. Let's. I'm gonna need to smoke again here in a minute. I had some very specific tasks that I want to do. I'll demonstrate some of the more advanced AI tools, like especially the CLI agentic coding agents that I've been working with. It's pretty good. There's one really good one I'm using right now that I think it was Dulce that introduced me to it, called Aider.chat. Now, something interesting that I discovered on X the other day, and y'all should look into this as well, is that, first of all, there's a competitor to Aider.chat called Goose that I was looking into, and I only ended up looking into it because Jack Dorsey, the former CEO of Twitter, posted a retweet to a grant proposal link for Goose. Apparently, the Goose project has like $1 million or some shit, and they're handing out like $100,000 to individual projects that they decide to approve in order to improve Goose. I thought that's fucking cool. I wish Aider had some grant money like that because I fucking love Aider. So I sat down and tried to use Goose for a little bit to compare it to Aider. I'm probably going to end up doing a video where I compare and contrast Aider and Goose and any of the other CLI agentic AI tools. But so far, I feel like Aider is superior in a lot of different ways. But I actually filed a bug report on Goose last night. It was when you first like go to configure Goose and you go to select your provider and your model, um, like, and I'm using Open Router, and they thankfully list it in their list of providers, but the list of models ends up being so big that it floods the entire screen. To show what that looks like, actually, so this is the beginning of configuring Goose. So when you go to hit configure providers and you do Open Router, the list is so big, you literally can't see what the fuck you have even currently selected. I had to do some crazy workaround shit just to like figure out, you know, which one I have selected. So like I'll go down here and then I'll press down, 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 down. Hit escape. Navigate back up to see where I'm currently selected. And then I know, oh, I'm that far away from the one that I actually want, which is DeepSeek Chat. So in this case, I have to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2, 3, 4, 5, 11. So from here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1. Now I have it selected, and I can hit enter. But I consider that a bug, so I filed a bug report on that shit. Oh, hell yeah. Hell yeah, non, that's what's up. Fuck yeah. DeepSeek is really good. I've had a great time using DeepSeek, honestly. Like, it didn't matter which model's best so much, because at a certain point there's like a good enough, you know? And for the amount of money that each like provider costs, DeepSeek really hits, I think, well beyond the price point of like being extremely valuable. Whereas, well, I've been able to like one shot a few things with like Claude or other ones, and I think I'm using Claude by default in GitHub Copilot. Like that one, it works in that context because like I got the pro subscription, so I get like pretty much unlimited requests and code completion. But where was I going with that? But for the times that I've used it in like the agentic tooling, um, it's incredibly verbose. It generates and does far more than you ask it to, and I don't like that shit. I don't want to need to have to tell the fucking LLM to like not be verbose all the time. DeepSeek does a pretty good job of just like being really, I think it's really one of the better ones, not only for the price point, but also just for like training people to be patient, because it's worth it. Okay, so not only do we need an HUD, Oh yeah. Okay. Well, one of my rest in peace Spectre. He was a good friend who was a .NET developer who worked on video encoding and streaming. Yeah. So funny enough, the bottleneck for AI right now, no matter no matter which company you are, no matter which provider you prefer, no matter no matter where you are in the space, we're all kind of reliant upon NVIDIA. Like at a certain point, and I think we're already there where hardware is plateauing a little bit, and the next gains that we're going to see are going to probably come from software level optimizations to things like their training processes so that they might be able to train faster, their analyses processes so that they might be able to verify the superiority of certain models better or faster. Um, there's going to be people using the existing tools in order to achieve crazy, performance gains on a lot of existing non-LLM software. And that's going to be a demonstration point for the adoption of these new tools. When people see how quickly and easily it is that they are able to not only stub things out, but with human intervention, build things and test them faster and better than ever before. Like, someone made a really interesting point about like AI taking our jobs the other day, and it was likened to the fact that people were writing books before the printing press. The printing press didn't put authors out of jobs; it changed how they do their work. You know, the telephone didn't kill jobs for what did they use before telephones? What's that shit? Um, Not Morse code, but telegraph. Telegraph operators had to skill up. Like phones were very different. You could now transmit voice. Um, a lot of people. There was probably some people who like whatever the intermediate technology was between like telegraph and telephone. I don't know if there was. Was it a direct leap from telegraph to telephone? That's the kind of thing I think about though. Like these tools will antiquate people who retain and stick to the old ways of doing things without integrating these new tools into their systems. It's going to always be important for humans to be experts in the domains that the LLMs are able to replicate because, as we've all seen, LLMs are totally able to hallucinate, come up with fake bullshit, um, and ultimately like if you try to remove humans entirely from the equation, all you have left at the end of the day is AI talking to each other, and that's not very useful. Unless they're actually building something. You get multi-agent systems that people are trying to experiment with, where one AI does the coding and then one AI does the like verification, and maybe even a third AI in the mix and shit. Um, but a lot of people who are doing this aren't necessarily thinking underneath the hood about things like how often web requests are being sent out over the wire, or how do you prevent the such a system from getting into like a crazy feedback loop where it's like stuck, constantly making errors and constantly fixing them. These are real questions and real problems that have to be dealt with. How do you make the AI self-correct? Oh no, don't. Let's not be a doomer about it, man. You know, I think now is the time to really run out and make new things, because if you don't, others will, and those others will become the new dominant forces. And if you want to have any weight in the space right now, then you need to like get on board with the new tooling. You need to get on board with skilling up. And yeah, automation's been slaying for a hot minute now, but there is definitely a difference between LLMs and automation, although they are related. I think my baby wants to step out again real quick, so we're gonna do that, and then I'll be right back. All right, we're back. I appreciate that, Anon. Thank you, man. Means a lot to read that. I don't know how hard humans are going to be done when when you got people doing crazy shit. Um, I don't know about these self-driving cars. I've never ridden in one, so I can't really speak to how good they are. The automation in the war front is kind of crazy, but every so often you've also got these really hilarious fails where the robotics kind of give out and they demonstrate just catastrophic collapse and shit like that. Okay. All right, so we're adding an up and down direction for informing the underlying system where the player is facing when he presses a certain direction key. So it's going to be interesting working through what happens when you press up and right, for instance, at the same time, and figuring out like which direction takes priority. Um, so like if you press up and then right, at the moment with this logic, x will be 1 and y will be 1. No, x will be -1, y will be 1. So no, x will be 1, y will be -1. Jesus, okay. Okay. I think we'll have to actually return from the function um, after every if statement, or we could like chain this up into else ifs. That way it's like not each function or not each block is executing. So like else this? No. Mm-hmm. Let's start digging. I love when she does this. I don't know if she's mad or happy, but it's always cute. I should probably get her up close and like record her for a while sometime. I'm sure some of it could make good ASMR content. Let's make sure that it still plays the same. And if it does, then I think I'm in a good position to actually implement the sword direction facing by having it appear up when you press up, down when you press down, and then also have it kind of like follow what direction you are, facing in. But actually, in order for this to work properly, I think what I'm going to have to do is actually do like dir.y equals 0 here. Here as well. Now here it would be x, and there x as well. So close those files. Uh-oh. That broke something. Oh, I know why it broke too. Um, so, but also, I don't think that change is going to work. We need to have these all as separate ifs, not as an else if chain. Not to mention the direction. Like figuring out the priority as to like so this is going to introduce the same bug that I just experienced, but it's going to fix the problem where I can't like press multiple direction keys at once. So the bug is a drawing bug because of the way that I'm handling the directions and the actual drawing of the hero sprite. This is totally unrelated. I'm just doing it because instinct. See right here, what we're doing is we're multiplying the source width by the x component of the vector, right? So all right, that bug is fixed. Well, that's a crazy bug that's just emerged. Um, think that last commit actually introduced a bug. Okay, so setting the X component of the direction to 0 for the sword is what's causing that glitch. At the moment, for the hero, there's really no meaning for the Y component of the direction. It's just kind of like an orientation factor. But, like, the way I'm envisioning it is that by default, you're facing right. You press attack, and the sword pops out. You hold A down, the sword stays out. And when you start moving right, it stays locked in front of you. If you stop moving, it stays locked in front of you. If you press up, the if you press up, you now have a Y component. If you don't have a Y component and you attack, the sword will appear on either your left or your right. If you attack and you do have a Y component, it should appear either above or below you depending on which direction you're moving. It won't matter if you're pressing left or right, because once you press up, that will take priority. So when you start pressing, when you like let go of up and right, and you're just pressing right, the sword should go from up to right. And it sounds really nuanced, because it is. But we don't update the X component of the direction if you let go of a key. We want to retain what direction you were last facing. So that's different for pressing up and down, though. So if key is up, Hey, Dulce, I'm just reading your chats. Um, Chip tone. No, I'll take a look into that. That sounds cool. No, honestly, Dulce, I moved away from libstl into raylib. If anything, you should be doing stuff in 3D in raylib. It's all a question of like where in the stack you want to work. Like, do you want to be like really attempting to make like your own shit from scratch, like all the way down to the graphics rendering pipeline? If so, then yeah, you could move away from raylib and go in that direction. But that's not what I'm doing. Okay, so when we update the Y component via key up and key down, when you're pressing up and down, here's where we handle the direction or like the position setting for the sword. If you're facing right, we do this. If you're facing left, we do this. Now, we could use Copilot here to write some baseline code and test out, maybe able to get it right the first try. But the way I like to use Copilot is by keeping it disabled by default and then writing a comment around the area that you need to like fill in. No? Ugh. So the problem with doing this on top is that we're going to have to recalculate a few things. We're going to have to basically like change how we're doing this a little bit. All right, so the top left of the hero is hb.y. Oh, if we subtract the height of the sword up texture times its size from that, then hb.y now points to the top left position of where the sword should appear on top of the hero. Of course, we're going to have to update the graphics drawing code to facilitate the new texture, but this will not, that won't be nearly as tricky as this part. If this works, we can reverse the process for the down direction. So in draw gameplay now, Oh, no. We only do that if the sword is facing up. All right, so it's not doing what I'm expecting. Oh. Doing some interesting stuff there. Um, Very weird behavior. I might have to rework how I'm doing the directions for the sword or something. Um, at the end of the day, I want the sword position to follow like your last directional key press. I'm gonna definitely need like coffee and a smoke here. Well, thank you, Yusuf. I appreciate that. Really, it should only be doing this if y is -1 right now. We're not handling the down key, although the behavior is only occurring whenever I press the down arrow key. This is very, very odd. Also very interesting that the sword stays in place. It gives me an idea for a power-up. Is this implementation starting to get like way overcomplicated? Right, the game should still function as it did previously. Oh, there's a bit of a bug there. Oh yeah. Um, so what's the bug actually? I don't want to actually change this setup here because this actually still does the proper movement, but yeah, it broke something. Oh, oh, oh. So when we press up, that's actually causing the directional X to get set to 0. So neither of these blocks execute, which is actually what's causing the sword to hang out in the middle of the air. That would actually make for kind of a cool mechanic on its own. But one thing we have to do to fix it is think through this logic. We could put a place. Oops. We could put a placeholder in. Oh, there's a bug there for sure. Oh, they're all -1. Wait. backwards movement isn't right. Oh, -1. I didn't build, did I? There's definitely a bug there. Yeah, the original way I was doing this was kind of better, where we left the Y unmodified, because there's definitely a bug. Okay, so far so good. Yeah, -1 for left. Um, well, I try not to take sides in any sort of controversy like that, what I do see with that whole situation is a lot of bandwagon behavior. And I always have to be very critical of bandwagon behavior. Whenever my YouTube feed gets flooded, absolutely fucking flooded, with stuff shitting on this dude named Thor, right? And if you have to, I said this last stream too, if you have to make a 30-minute fucking video and can't give me a summary within the first 5 minutes, and you have to use lambastic, audacious, flamboyant language in order to hype up people to watch your content, just so that you can get like the whole view or the whole video view, or if you care more about monetizing your video content than you do the actual controversy, then I think it's probably just a big nothing burger, right? There's a couple individual points that some people have helped lay out for me. And on one hand, like, I just don't give a fuck about World of Warcraft drama. Straight up. Like, who gives a shit? It's a fucking game. Get over it. Secondly, who cares if he writes shitty code? I write shitty code. Everybody writes shitty code. The point of shitty code isn't that, like, it's supposed to be some monument to, like, how good you are at something. It's supposed to be, like, something that just works, or something that at least compiles and runs, or something that is a step towards your intention. And code is, generally speaking, better than no code, but sometimes no code is better than code as well. So can't hate on someone for trying to make something great, even if it's going to take them a long time to do it. Hopefully Heartbound is a awesome game to play when it actually does come out. But with that whole stop killing games thing, right? I feel a little bit conflicted. Maybe this is a hot take. You could call me an industry shill or whatever, since I myself, as a software developer and game programmer, do want to make games, and I'd like to make money off the games that I make. And I'd like to make games in a way where, if in the future I create something like an MMO that has a server that people can connect to and play the game, I would want to offer a way for people to play that game using server functionality when and if the profitability of my game dries up in the future and requires me to take down the servers. If I decide, hey guys, it's been a good run, I'm going to take Project RPG offline now. Thank you for playing. If you want to continue playing or building upon the game, you can visit this repository, download this server code, and host it yourself, and I'll give you instructions for how to do that kind of stuff. I don't think that's an unreasonable position for any new game developer to make, because one of the problems with offering something like that for large corporations is that large corporations often don't develop open source games. They often don't develop tools that are open source. It's part of the American dream to make profitable things and to retain ownership and rights over your ability to create such products. And one should not be limited in how they choose to do business. If you're an evil corporation and you want to make games that are only online for 2 years and then take the servers down with nobody to have any recourse, that's fucking buyer beware. You should have known that shit going in. Like, how are people going to be purchasing these games thinking that magically, like, the companies can keep the servers up forever? Like, it doesn't make sense. You should know this going in, that any sort of servers that someone offers, like, servers are not forever. Life is not forever. As that as the fucking Ubisoft CEO said, nothing is eternal. Um, so I'm playing devil's advocate on this front. Like, I do this in order to help better reason out, like, what my position actually is on something, because I frequently don't know what I actually think about something, because I don't want to jump to conclusions until I've done my proper research. I don't want to make assumptions, and I don't want to be given information that misrepresents the reality in any way. I can't tell you how many Pirate Software videos I've clicked on made by other people that attempt to roast him in a fashion that's just completely incredulous. You know, it's without merit, baseless, simply hate farming. You know, that's one of my new favorite words. It's kind of an evolution on the internet hate machine. You know, I might be kind of an old hat by name dropping that, but the internet hate machine is a real thing. It is effectively the mob. It is what happens when groupthink goes out of control. And in that, you know, those are the three main points that I ever see brought up about him. So I don't know what else I'm missing, but between those 3 points, he may have misrepresented Stop Killing Games, and that may have led to it not getting as many signatures as it should have in the initial days. Well, that sucks. Thor made a mistake. I'm sure it's really hard to own up to mistakes, even if, you know, he has a pattern or history of not owning up to his mistakes. I think that's fine. You know, the best way to kill a troll is to starve it of attention. You know, if you don't feed the trolls, they don't come. And one of Thor's problems is that he tends to respond to every single point of criticism thrown at him in an effort to defend himself. And I think this is a great waste of time. I think it's a bad pattern of behavior that's only reinforcing any sort of negative mental thoughts that he might be dealing with. And that's probably their goal, is to slowly drive him insane and, you know, get him off the internet. Well, what I'm saying is that if the hate mob wanted to be effective, stop watching his content, stop giving him views, actively petition and ask people to participate in your boycott of his material, drive his views down in that way. And the people who are going to stick around are the people who actually really care about building and making shit. They're the people who really want to see him get his act together, stop playing so many games on stream, and actually make some fucking progress on his shit. Part of the problem is I never see him get into a good workflow like I get into. He responds to a lot of chat, and a lot of his job nowadays isn't really about development so much, it seems like, as community management. He's really driving people to make things. He's given a lot of good advice. There's a lot of really good clips of him talking about things and pointing people towards the resources that they need in order to get started doing anything. Um, I think that's great. I think more people should encourage other people to get out of their comfort zone and find ways to actually start making shit, because for a long time I knew how to code. I didn't know how to make shit. It making shit's hard no matter what your medium. Whether you're an artist, a painter, a drawer, a musician, a dancer, a fitness instructor, a programmer. Making shit's hard. We shouldn't really kick people for like not coming through in what might be perceived to be a timely fashion. Like, if that's a project that was crowdfunded and there's people waiting on stuff, then that's certainly a failure on his part. And I think there should be some level of accountability with him actually making progress on his product. If people have already given him money, absolutely. Um, but at the same time, his kind of situation is really incentivized to just, he's got a solid kind of routine where he like streams for like 12 hours a day and racks in views and racks in probably some dollars as a result of it. And that probably pays his bills. And you can't really knock that too. But if you really wanted to like knock him down a post, then you're going to have to take a stab at his income. You're going to have to make his wallets hurt. And I'm not saying that because I hate Thor or anything like that. I'm just saying that if I were the hate mob, that's what I would be doing. But instead, the hate mob, I think, in a way, is kind of like bringing him more views. He might have had like a drop on Twitch, but that's only one metrics place. Like, he's got material all over YouTube. Um, his shorts get tens of thousands of views, and that's that. Like, who cares if he's a nepo baby, though, right? Like, we don't get to choose who we're born to. We don't get to choose our starting locations when we're spawned in. He was given a very privileged position, and that's that. But I think the other point that people also bring out is that he's lying about his experience, and you should also take the things he says with a grain of salt. Like, what if he's messing with you when he says, I never say that I work at Blizzard, when he says it a lot? Like, that's really all I have to say on it. Like, shout out to Thor. He's a cool guy. That's why I'm participating in this game jam. Oh, absolutely, Nathan. I do think that there's a lot of people who just hate that he has attention. Well, see, I noted last time on stream too that like every time I see Thor actually add a code editor, it's always open on a big like YAML list of like different item definitions, and they all have crazy amounts of like different stats on them, right? And I always thought it was really curious because like for first of all, YAML for managing anything is a fucking nightmare. As cool of an idea as it is, um, there's probably a simpler way to do it. And secondly, like if you're gonna have that many different like attributes on your items and weapons, then there should really be a lot of gameplay. There should be a lot of different interesting ways that these stats stack and contribute and add and modify each other, and this should result for very interesting, immersive, emergent gameplay. But my first impression, without really looking at the rest of his code or anything like that, is that he's taken a very top-down approach to building this thing, and I think he may have overscoped himself. I may have one of the reasons he might not be making a lot of progress is that the code base is kind of bottlenecked or fragmented in a way that makes actually working on it incrementally and updating it, kind of difficult. Um, so why doesn't anyone talk to him about this? Why doesn't his community bring this up? Why don't people close to him who care about him um, try to nudge him along gently? Is it because he's headstrong and he won't listen to anyone? I know how that is. I saw a big thing he did with Dr. K, and I thought that was a really cool stream. It was a really good discussion, and it kind of was my first real look at him talking about anything in a really deep way. He bans all his closest supporters. Wow. So, oh, you want me to work on my game? You're banned. You're banned. What do you want me to blah, 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 before I ban you? I mean, that's totally possible. That's what's happening. But you know what? Like, fuck it. Like, I think it's more productive to go off. Like, if people are going to hate on him so hard for not making some shit, like, I think that's one of the reasons he's started doing these game jams. If the game has been in production for 7 years and we're on PirateJam 17, then he's had eight years of these. Like, he's been hosting this since probably the game started. And he's probably doing this as a way to encourage people who question why he hasn't made progress and whatnot to sit down for themselves, try and make a game, and see themselves how difficult it is. I'm learning the hard way that, the game that I really want to make is going to take a long time. And as someone who not only wants but also needs to make money soon, more than I'm currently making, and the job market sucks, and I have this great pipeline for getting games directly onto itch.io when they're ready, and directly being able to monetize them, so I can actually just make a product, put it up for sale, make a product, put it up for sale, make a product, put it up for sale. That's what I want to do. Each individual product takes a long time, potentially. And even this one game, what is a long time? 2 weeks is 2 weeks a long time, for the amount of time that I spend doing certain things. The most amount of time that Project RPG has taken me is doing the animation system. Plugging in a lot of the gameplay stuff has been pretty incremental and straightforward, but it was really the animation system working out a lot of the nuances of getting that really not only smooth animation without wasting frames at that too. There's a lot of stuff like that that takes a long time. I, I totally see it reasonable on both sides of the equation, Nathan and Dulce, just to kind of like stop this little fight that's going on. I totally see both situations being possible. I see that some of the people he's banning are probably genuine rule breakers who are just being really annoying and just kind of stupid about things. But I also see the other possibility being a real possibility that Thor is actually a totalitarian overlord who wields his power with wanton abandon, and it wouldn't be simple questions though. It would probably be nagging, and that's kind of like the direction it has to go in a little bit in order to like push and prod someone, because another way that it could go about is his community could just kind of like take the discussion on for him. I don't know if the code is open source or not, but if he gets like 100 people spamming in chat, work on the game, is he gonna ban everyone? Like, hashtag work on the game, you know? All right, a simple change I'm going to make since I haven't really made a whole lot of progress. Orcs running on the side of the screen on the left is no longer going to cause it to game over. However, so this way we can spawn on the left or the right. And I'll be able to test this out. So this should update not only the side that they move on, but also the direction that they end up moving in. But I broke something. Oh shit, it's almost my dog's dinner time. Feed horses, nice. Yeah, I've banned people for simple questions, um, because sometimes an innocuous appearing question can be enough to derail the main thread of conversation. Like, there's this one type of bot that shows up in the Twitch chats every so often, and it's like, it always has like the same type of templated message out. Bless you. It's something like, by the way, my my audio isn't working. Do you mind if you respond in chat? And it's like such a disruptive thing to ask, especially from someone who might be in the middle of coding. And I will straight up ban those types of people for that kind of thing. Um, so let's take a break.